It's hard to imagine that when No Doubt entered the studio in late 1994 to record their new album Tragic Kingdom, that they could have possibly envisaged the phenomenal worldwide success that the album eventually generated. With sales now in the millions and Grammy nominations secured, No Doubt have undoubtedly become a major force within the music industry, with their intriguing mixture of ska, punk, and new wave. I'm radio journalist Dina Sturridge, and throughout this audio documentary, we shall attempt to document No Doubt's incredible rise from the small clubs of Orange County to the arenas of the world. Although music is constantly reinventing itself, the influences that dictate the sound of any band are usually not too difficult to unearth. At the end of the 1970s, a young British band called the Sex Pistols turned the old order of music completely on its head with their classic album, Never Mind the Bollocks. The impact of the album still reverberates through the alternative rock scene even today. But at the time, its anarchistic and uncluttered sound was such a breath of fresh air that almost out of nowhere, hundreds of young bands exploded onto the scene. Bands such as The Specials, Bad Manners, The Selector, The Beat, and of course Madness arrived at the unique sound by mixing punk with elements of the Desmond Decker Northern Soul sound and reggae. Although the whole ska and mod scene, championed also by The Jam and Secret Affair, became immensely popular throughout Europe, America never opened its door fully to the mesmeric beats of the two-tone scene. Southern California, however, was certainly one exception to the rule. Anaheim High School student Gwen Stefani jealously guarded her feelings for her favorite bands.
Some people may put us down for after 9 years finally having a little success, and that was the context of that statement.
Yeah, you're not allowed to have success.
Right.
You're supposed to stay poor and unknown.
Okay, so
you?
okay.
Yeah. How dare you?
Exactly.
How dare you enjoy your life?
So see how that works?
That's right. I was talking to Trent Reznor about that, and what about all these people that think you're, uncool and selling out by doing this and that? And he goes, screw them. Oh, he didn't say screw them.
Right.
He said use the F word.
He used that word?
Yeah.
That's
so I mean,
crazy.
it just happens. Well, because I've seen it happen to myself. Actually, you sort of discover a band and nobody tells you about them. You didn't hear about it on the radio. You found out it from your little sources, and then you buy their records and you love that band, and all of a sudden everyone else finds out about it, and somehow I don't know what it is. Just everyone else knowing about it seems to devalue the artist, and I can't put my finger on it. I think everybody just likes to get proprietary with these things, and this is my own private band, and how dare they be successful? It's a weird thing.
I used to be that way, actually.
Yeah.
I mean, I did. I admit it. And
yeah. So
I grew up, so I'm.
Can you put your finger on exactly what that is?
I think
I can't.
It's funny because when I was really into Madness and I was in high school and I would have their buttons on, and I would display that I was very much into this band. I'm like, yeah, this band's rad, and I would try to get people into it, but at the same time I was like, I didn't want them to know about it. So it's just a weird, I think, teenage thing that you go through.
Yes.
You know what I mean? But I think the more the merrier, I mean, we make this music, and if people can have joy from it, that's what makes us happy and fulfilled. So I think that's what our goal is at this point.
The Orange County area of Southern California is one of the most fertile environments in America for producing raw young bands that are not hampered with the concerns of commercialism, but allow their self-expression to run riot. With ska being largely overlooked throughout the states, bands such as the excellent Untouchables and Fishbone were packing the clubs in Orange County and introducing a whole new generation of young Californians to the sweet reggae-hued sound of two-tone. So it was in early 1987 that vocalist John Spence, ably assisted by keyboard player Eric Stefani and his sister Gwen, began performing their favorite tracks by The Selector and Madness whenever they could around their native Anaheim. Shortly afterwards, they acquired a bass guitarist in the shape of Tony Canal, who, although born in India, had been brought up in both Britain and California. The fledgling band would soon be badly shaken when in December 1987, lead singer John Spence tragically took his own life at the appallingly young age of 18. Not too surprisingly, This left the band in a state of shock, but not for the first time along their remarkable trail to success. They bravely decided to continue, with Gwen now finding herself thrust into the role of lead vocalist and focal point of the band. Although it feels as if No Doubt sprung out of nowhere in 1995, their story is by no means simply a case of overnight success, as Tony Canal explains.
Gwen mentioned a minute ago you guys just had your 10-year anniversary on New Year's Eve. Most of those years were kind of lean years for y'all, right?
We had some tough years in the beginning, but I think we've always felt fortunate. You know, we always had good shows. We always had things that kept us going over those 10 years. So I don't think we were ever so destitute where we were like, this sucks. We always were having a good time, even though there were some lean years in there.
Even if at that time you didn't know that eventually it was all going to pay off to big success, it still was worth doing because y'all were having fun.
We were always having a good time.
And it's the same lineup, the same four folks?
For the most part,
For all 10 years?
It's been us four for the last 8 years.
It seems like you guys were just a local band for, the last 8 years or something?
It's funny because we've been around for 9 years and we didn't really get to do a lot of touring, a lot of extensive touring. We've got to do, a couple of national tours, but starting last August, we've been out on the road since then. So we plan on being out this whole year.
So before the album came out, you did do national tours?
We did when our first record came out in 1992. We went out a few times then.
Which bands were you with?
Wow, on that tour, we've played with a lot of different bands. On that tour, we went out with Fishbone for a couple shows. We actually played a couple shows with Public Enemy, which was a treat.
I'm assuming you...
Pato Banton and the Specials when they got back together back then in 1992. Special Beat.
Yeah, I remember that.
Remember
There's
that?
a lot of pot backstage at Irvine Meadows.
We wouldn't know.
But for the longest time, you were just an Orange County band, right?
Yeah, I think, if you're from Orange County, unfortunately, there's not a lot of places to play in Orange County.
Did you play at Goodies?
We did a surprise show and it was at
Yeah.
That's when it was all ages for those Sunday nights.
But for the most part, there's not a lot of great places that have survived in Orange County. The city's managed to close down these great places that.
Cuckoo's Nest?
No,
Nope.
no. I think if you're from Orange County, you have to venture out and play Hollywood and Los Angeles and Long Beach and San Diego and Santa Barbara, and you just kind of become a Southern California band. That's what we consider ourselves now. Although we are proud of the fact that we are from Anaheim and Orange County.
Throughout 1988, the band continued to play in and around Orange County, and Gwen began attending California State University, Fullerton. It was also during this period that Gwen and bassist Tony Canal began a romantic relationship, which would continue for the next 7 years. Carrying on a relationship amid such hectic scenes could not have been an easy task, and separating while on the very cusp of international acclaim could have damaged both the band's future and their professional relationship. But to their eternal credit, they have managed to remain firm friends. Fellow Orange County native Lisa Axe, who is musical director at San Bernardino's alternative rock giant KCXX, explains.
I liken the subject matter of Tragic Kingdom to the subject matter of Rumors from Fleetwood Mac. Interesting comparison, actually, because at the time, Gwen Stefani, of course, the charismatic lead singer, and Tony Canal were dating. And actually, they were in the midst of having a lot of troubles and breaking up. Kind of like when Fleetwood Mac was recording Rumors. Lindsey Buckingham and Stevie Nicks were having emotional problems as well. It ended up to be one of the most successful, interesting albums for Fleetwood Mac, and I think that's part of the reason why Tragic Kingdom is so wonderfully successful for No Doubt, because it comes straight from the heart of Gwen Stefani. You can hear the emotional turmoil, you can hear the ups and the downs, and her trying to sort of work out the problems, the personal and professional problems that she was going through on the album. I think a lot of people can relate to that. The problem of breaking up with a boyfriend, having to work with him. I remember hearing about the origins of Just a Girl, and Gwen Stefani said that her and Tony Canal were driving down the road, and they were driving at night, and Tony was giving her a hard time because he said, girls shouldn't be driving at night. Now, in reality, nobody should be driving in Southern California. It's completely dangerous, but that was sort of the inspiration for the song.
By 1989, the band had added another 2 members to its ranks, both of which have proved to be very shrewd acquisitions. Firstly, in came guitarist Tom Dumont, whose musical influences were entirely different from the Stefanis. Quoting rock mainstays such as Kiss and Black Sabbath as among his favorites, his influence would begin to add greater steel and an altogether harder edge to the band's sound, as well as giving No Doubt a man not afraid to offer his opinions and someone prepared to be a real band leader. Our picture is almost completed when the band bring in a drummer in the shape of the devil-horned Adrian Young. At the time he joined the band, Young, by his own admission, confesses to have been more interested in playing golf than the drums. But him and Tony Canal soon picked up a rhythmic understanding. Although the band were now beginning to amass a considerable following throughout their native Orange County and had had a demo recorded with the help of Flea from the Red Hot Chili Peppers, these were not the easiest times. In between studying at university and working all manner of jobs, the band continued to expand their ever-burgeoning army of admirers by gigging relentlessly throughout 1990 and 1991. It was then that their efforts finally received some much overdue recognition when Interscope signed them up, and the band furiously began work on their debut album, the self-titled No Doubt. In hindsight, it is perhaps easy to see why this debut release did not make much of an impression when it was finally unleashed on an unsuspecting world in 1992. The music world at the time was split fairly evenly between two camps. In Europe, the rave culture was at its zenith, with the hip-hop and techno strains of the house scene completely dominant, while in America, the grunge revolution, spearheaded by the majestic Nirvana, had swept the entire alternative rock scene up in its path. Dangling fairly precariously between both these musical giants came the pleasing ska-pop sounds of No Doubt's debut. Although they managed some high-profile gigs, opening for Gwen's favorites Fishbone and their old friends the Chili Peppers, Interscope quickly began to lose faith in their new signings, and even went as far as refusing to fund any more tours or further recordings. However, No Doubt are nothing if not resilient, and undeterred by their record company's dismissive indifference, they continued to write new material and finance their own shows all over California. By 1994, they self-produced and financed a new album called the Beacon Street Collection, which also spawned two limited edition 7-inch releases, Squeal and the excellent Doghouse, which is still a firm favorite among the band's hardcore following. One can only imagine how much those two singles are worth on the collector's market now. The album, unlike its predecessor, had an altogether more punk feeling to it, which is perhaps explained by the fact that it was ostensibly a collection of old songs and what the band viewed as B-side recordings. Renowned DJ and promoter J.J. Fowler recalls this period of time.
Yeah, when did I first become aware of No Doubt? I guess it was kind of in late 1995, which is very, very odd because I was working for a radio station in Liverpool called Crash, and we were doing a weekly show on a Wednesday night, and one of the people that handled our PR and our press and everything else had been over to America, and basically they picked up a copy of the Beacon Street Collection, and they were raving about it and saying how it was kind of ska influenced and kind of madness specials, and it had hints of a lot of old English 80s style music in it, but was, you know, very much a 90s act. So I told her, I said, bring it in and, you know, give it a listen and maybe, you know, spin a tune on air, give it a go, see how it goes. And she did, and she brought it in, and I went in on a Wednesday night to do my show, and strangely enough, the same night that I was doing this show was a night that we had a band playing in Liverpool at the Crazy House, which is the place where I'm DJ promoter. We had a band called Bush who were playing that night, and Gavin was coming along to the studios afterwards to do a bit of an interview, have a bit of a chat, play some tunes on air, which actually, you know, was really good for us because, you know, at that time they were just breaking in England. And he came along, and I had the CD, the No Doubt CD, and I played it, and I actually played it on air. Well, Gavin Rossdale from Bush was actually in the same studio, which was very, very odd because, you know, later on, of course, he became an item with Gwen, and you know, that still strikes me as being very, very odd.
Now you guys have been getting the Scar label, and you're trying to shake it off, I understand.
When we first, oh, I'm sorry.
Whoever
When
wants
we
to
first
go
started out, we were pretty much a two-tone ska band, but in that first year, we started experimenting with different styles of music, and so
Tell them how long ago
that was back
by
in
the way.
'87.
Right,
And
9
so
years ago.
we really appreciate being, considered a ska band, but we don't consider ourselves a complete two-tone ska band. We're not an authentic ska band. So if you're a rude boy or rude girl and you come to our show, you're probably going to be let down because we mix up so many different styles of music.
But you were kind of ahead of your time there because Scar's finally coming and recovering and coming back.
I don't think ska ever went away. There was always this underground thing that was going on, and there's always bands that have carried on the ska name.
You should listen to an Australian band called the Porkers. They're from
You
Newcastle.
know what? They're
tour
on
with
all
us.
shows with us.
Oh, are they doing shows
They played
with you?
with us
Sorry, I didn't
last
realise.
night,
How's it going?
They're
With the
great.
Porkers.
They're cool.
I met them a long, long time ago in America, and I remember because I talked to what's his name, Pete Porker, and I guess when I met him, I signed his CD and I put on there, "I'll see you in a far away country someday," and here we are.
As the grunge bandwagon began to lose its impetus, Interscope's subsidiary Trauma Records decided to take No Doubt on again and finance their return to the studio to record what the band would later refer to as their proper second album. Trauma's interest was aided by the tremendously loyal following that still descended in droves whenever the band gigged, and by the amount of copies of the Beacon Street collection that they would sell at these shows. Although founding member and ska devotee Eric Stefani had helped write most of the material planned for the new album, by 1995 he decided that he'd had enough of the rock and roll lifestyle and decided to leave the band. Although Eric has not disappeared entirely from popular culture and is now an animator on the world's funniest television program, The Simpsons. Once in the studio, the 4 Romanian members of the band quickly recorded the new album, Tragic Kingdom. The band's dark mood at the time reflected in the play on words for the title, taken from Disney's Anaheim-based Magic Kingdom. Lisa Axe, who is musical director at San Bernardino's alternative rock giant KCXX, fondly remembers her station's Christmas coup.
I have to admit that I am a little bit biased towards No Doubt. They're from the area of the country that I live in. They're from Orange County, California, and I live not too far away from that. The band played our very first Christmas show for the radio station back in 1995. This was just before Tragic Kingdom hit it big. We had scheduled the band, and about a month after we scheduled the band to perform, their album just hit. Just a Girl was a huge hit, and it was a major coup for us to have this band performing at our Christmas show. I don't think we've ever had such a huge band play there since. Of course, the band tried to back out of their obligation to perform, but we held them to it. Being from Orange County in Southern California, a lot of the influences of No Doubt are varied. They've got some Mexican sounds, and one of the most predominant sounds is the ska genre. No Doubt's first releases were very strong ska-based sounds. Tragic Kingdom, however, departs from that. A lot of the tried and true fans of No Doubt will say that they sold out in order to be popular. But hey, it's worked for them.
Their collective sense of gloom did not last for long once the first single was released of the album in early 1996. Just a Girl was Gwen Stefani all over. A punk-tinged record that exuded the cool, confident, and brash stage persona that she had established with their hardcore following. However, with the intervention of K-Rock and MTV's Buzzbin, this Orange County quartet were about to take on board a whole host of new admirers. It is perhaps not surprising that the single took off on K-Rock, as it evidently received a lot of requests.
The thing that kept us going for so long is the fact that we had a great following in Orange County. Those people supported us for many years.
Right.
And even though we were having various troubles throughout our career with all kinds of different problems, we always had great shows to play, and we had a great group of fans to support us, and that made...
That's what I've noticed. I'm glad you said that. I'm glad you said that, because for years, I felt kind of bad because people would call up and they'd say, play No Doubt, and I'd go, well, there's nothing to play. And they go, well, we'll send you a demo. And, and then I never got the demo. But you had your fans calling for years and years and years.
That's so cool.
To play No Doubt
that
here.
was me calling. I did do that,
You did?
Even when Just a Girl came out, I was like, I felt like it was my, responsibility to just sit by the phone and call K-Rock and say, play
I
just a
called
girl.
many times and changed my name and
Right.
age.
I'm like,
Skewing our research.
I'm like, oh my God, I got through, because I really couldn't believe I got through. Oh, can you play Just a Girl, please, please? Okay, yeah, we'll play it. What's your name? Gwen. Glenn. I admit it. I don't care.
Just a Girl was undoubtedly one of the standout single releases of 1996 and gave no doubt the commercial breakthrough that they had not even dared think about. The hits didn't stop there, though. In early 1996, they released Don't Speak, a track that the band had put a great deal of work into to achieve the right sound.
What I was noticing is all the layers of vocals on the album. I mean, your voice is everywhere on that.
We did a lot of layering, which was kind of like a thread we used throughout the record. We did it with Matthew Wilder, Break My Stride, 80s King. So it was kind of his idea, and I think it worked really good. It was really fun to do, actually. So at first I was kind of like, wow, that sounds really big and slick and huge, and it scared me at first, but then I got really into it. Kind of overdid it on some of the songs, but.
So what we're talking about is there are background harmonies that where most groups would use a keyboard or something like that, you would come in and sing with yourself and do these multi-layered harmonies.
Yeah.
And so there must be like 1,050 Gwen tracks on these masters.
We would do we would fill the whole board up with these tracks, right? And then we would dub them down to like a sampler, and then just because there's not enough tracks, you have to put it down to a sampler and then fly it back in. It was amazing how we did it, and it took a lot of time, but it was a lot of fun too. So
you can almost do dub versions of your songs with all the background vocals.
I wouldn't mind having a version of Tragic Kingdom just only background vocals. That would make me really happy.
Seriously, you could, and you could go in and have who's the guy who does Dub Syndicate? Adrian Sherwood and those dub mixer guys over in England.
Yeah.
Just turn them loose with it and see what they come up with.
See what happens. Yeah, that would be amazing.
The only rule is you have to use all the background vocals.
And they have to be really loud in the mix.
How do you guys as a band write the music? Does one of you write the lyrics? Some of you write the music? How's that work?
It's always different with each song. It's funny because usually me and Tony will team up and do, like, me and Tony wrote Spiderwebs together in his bedroom, or and then me and Tom will get together and team up.
You have to wake Tom up before you...
Yeah. He's a jeller, too, when we're writing, that's for sure. We usually just sit there with a little tape recorder and I embarrass myself and just, making up melodies and nonsense lyrics. And then I go back and listen to the demo tape for, hours and hours and hours, and then just bring it after we get a song going, then we bring it to the whole band, and Adrian puts in his part. Do
you guys write a lot of songs? Are you real prolific?
No, we don't.
Here's a question, because this album has been on the charts longer than most albums ever are. I mean, did you, when this first album came out, I mean, not the first album, but the big album, when it came out, did you have in your mind a length of time that it was probably going to be there, and then you kind of have to figure out, well, now we're going to need another album after that? Have you had a whole new set of songs ready to go, but you're just holding off? Or you haven't even got to that point yet?
It's been such a long haul because this record took 3 years to make, and we had millions of songs, and that's why we put out the Beacon Street collection, which was like a B-sides kind of thing. And then we never even thought this record would come out. There was so much problems going on with it. And
how long did you have the album before it came out?
I know that it took, in between the time that we finished recording and then mixing, it took how long?
6 months. It was probably finished in sometime in 1994 for the most part. And then at the last minute, we went in and they had written Spiderwebs, and we went in and recorded Spiderwebs and Excuse Me Mister right before we finished mixing. But
it's funny because with Spiderwebs, that was like the last song we wrote, and it was just, it didn't even think anything would happen.
Just kind of threw it in.
We actually used it as a thing where we recorded Excuse Me Mister, we recorded a different version of it, and we didn't like how it turned out, so we used Spiderwebs and said, well, if you want Spiderwebs, you have to let us re-record Excuse Me Mister.
Oh, really?
So we went back in and recorded both of those songs together, and that was like the best studio experience because we had like the whole 3 years behind us, and we kind of knew what we were doing by that point.
With MTV enthusiastically playing tracks from Tragic Kingdom on a continual basis, The album eventually climbed to the summit of the Billboard Top 100 by the fall 1996, completing an unprecedented rise in seemingly a very short space of time. The year culminated with 2 Grammy nominations, a whole host of platitudes from the critics and public alike, a new single in the shape of the ska-based Spiderwebs, and album sales that were reaching scary proportions. There was no longer anything even remotely tragic about No Doubt's kingdom. The interest did not stop in just America. Don't Speak quickly rose to the top of the charts in Australia, Japan, and all over Europe. There was a special poignancy about the band's success in Britain, where some 17 years earlier the sweet sounds of two-tone had dominated the charts. British DJ Simon Porter takes up the story.
I first remember when I got a copy of Just a Girl as a promo copy, and I think I had 2 copies of it, and I was dodgy about playing it in the clubs. And then I thought, well, what the heck, give it a go. It was getting quite a lot of airplay on MTV, so there was a few people in the club that knew it, a few people that didn't. But it was slowly starting to build, and it was becoming one of those sort of mid-set bouncy tunes. Then Don't Speak got released and went straight in at number 1, and that was it. The awareness of No Doubt was just suddenly shot into the highlight, and everyone was asking for No Doubt. So from that was kind of a mid-set change of mood kind of song. It was an end-of-night thing as well. People would ask for that, and it would just be a nice chill-out tune, but it wasn't a massive dance floor filler. So we went back to Just a Girl, and because the awareness had been made bigger, Just a Girl was a complete mid-set, bouncy tune. The kind of people that were dancing to it as well was just a complete cross-section, straight across the board. You'd get girls that were into like Clueless, because it was on the Clueless film soundtrack, and you'd get hardcore ska fans from the Madness and the Specials, and it was just a complete cross-section. It was great. Plus the fact all the lads fancied Gwen Stefani, which did help. Also the band, made up of great musicians. The bass and drum work, obviously from coming from a ska background, was totally different style-wise to stuff at that time in England.
A period of time also remembered by promoter J.J. Fowler.
So, there I was in the summer, autumn of 1996, sitting there watching MTV. This, of course, was when MTV was more Americanized, before it became MTV kind of UK, and used to play a lot more American acts. And out came this song called Just a Girl, band was No Doubt, and I was completely mesmerized and amazed that this was the same band that I'd been kind of exposed to in kind of late 1995 on the previous release that they had out, which was the Beacon Street collection. I thought, this can't be the same band, this is too good. I called up the record company, the promotion company that deals with Trauma Interscope in the UK, asked them if they're going to promote this act. Lo and behold, about 3 weeks later, an advanced promotional copy of Just a Girl arrived on my doormat, started playing it, give it a go in the clubs. Kind of mixed reaction. The really rock kids thought it was a bit too kind of lightweight, and the alternative kids, they weren't quite sure what to make of it. They seemed to like it, but they didn't quite know where it was going, or indeed where it was coming from. So I filed it away in my box, and then the record company told me that they were going to release Don't Speak around about the Christmas time, and I thought, oh, this is it, here we go, this will be number 1. It had number 1 written all over it. It was, a great time of year to be releasing that song. They released it, it went straight in at number 1. It seemed like everybody went out and bought the album, and suddenly the kids realised, after playing the album, that Don't Speak was not only, a great song off a great album, but also this album contained a song called Just a Girl, which had been hearing, of course, a few months earlier in the clubs. Started getting requested, started playing it. The record label reissued the single, kind of springtime into summertime. Another huge hit, another big top 10 in the UK, followed by Spider's Webs and a great tour. And it seemed like, wow, they were here, and then suddenly they were an act to be definitely to be reckoned with here in the UK, and well deserved after such a long time. But it seemed like the timing was the big thing. It seems like in America that in the summer of '96, Just a Girl, Spider's Webs hit the right time. Big, great summer tunes outdoors. having a good time kind of tunes. Then, places like Australia, they were hitting there in January, February, which is their summertime. And then in the UK in 1997, it seemed like the timing was the big factor here. Great marketing, great strategy, and of course great songs. And as I say, I've been seeing them live in Manchester in England just a few weeks ago. They played a couple of new tunes. And trust me, it may have taken them 9 years to get here, but they are not going to go away because their new material is as strong as anything on Tragic Kingdom. And also, I've heard some acoustic unplugged stuff on some radio shows by the band, and they are such a tight unit. They're definitely going to be a force to be reckoned with in the late 90s. I don't think it's going to be a one-hit wonder. I think perhaps maybe they may not have the success that they have had, but there again, bands like Offspring, Green Day, sold like 8-7 million or whatever, but they've released albums since and they're still around. They're still selling records really, really well, and perhaps are better than ever for the fact that they're not, that kind of madness isn't going on around them. So no doubt that oh wow, it's such a pun, isn't it, on no doubt. Everybody says, oh, no doubt they're going to be great, no doubt they are great. It's fantastic, but yeah, they're going to be around for a while. And I, for one, am looking forward to the next album and their continuing success.
I don't know how you guys have time to do anything with your schedule, because I can't turn on my television set or pick up a newspaper without seeing you're somewhere else. Is it at all slowing down for y'all, or is it every bit as crazy as it has been all year long?
We thought this weekend was going to be like a little, cool, we'll just do a little benefit for Sublime. We'll be, it turned into this huge, gigantic thing, with an hourly schedule. So I don't know. Yeah, it does get pretty busy.
Yeah, I'll bet. You guys have been working hard. And let me just say, too, that Tom, all the other members of your band look pretty woken up. But you don't look so well.
There was this thing that happened to us on tour, and we started all sleeping till 2 and 3 in the afternoon.
Right.
Only because of jet lag and that sort of thing. Mm-hmm. And I just kept that going now. And
so you're actually still asleep.
This was the middle of the night for me.
Okay. Tom actually works a graveyard shift.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, Hughes. So as soon as we finished practice last night, he went over there, started
restocked the shelves.
Restocked the shelves. And
I don't know anything about how finances work, but I think you're about ready to give up the Hughes job. If I understand the math correctly, I think that's going to be possible.
Well,
but I mean,
I signed away my publishing to the rest of the band 2 years ago.
Oh
like
no! So you got like a $30 loan at the time, and then,
But they're good about it. They scheduled concerts around my work schedule.
That's very nice.
What is if you can remember it, what is the most brutal schedule you've had? Have you ever had a deal where you've played 2 concerts in one day in 2 different cities, or done 10 television shows in one day? Because you've been so in demand.
I think we've done the 9 shows in 7 days.
Really?
Yeah, in concerts, different cities. Yeah,
really,
from city to city.
And then you were having throat problems for a little while. Is that because of overworking?
Yeah, we overworked ourselves for sure. But I remember there was a run where there was 16 days on, though, as far as photo shoots and every day a major event happened. Right. So I remember I came off stage one night and I was like, "Get the paramedics quick!"
Really?
I was totally dramatic about it.
Now, when the album came out, it's been 15 months now. Is that about right? About 15 months since the album first came out, right? You, of course, you have no idea how it's going to do. You've had other records that have come out before, and you've got a little something extra here because of some of the people you're working with, but you have no idea how it's going to do, and you don't know what the life of that record is going to be.
Mm-mm.
But even having said that, you have got to be stunned that here we are in 1997, and it's still the #1 album in America.
It's amazing because we just had our 10-year anniversary on New Year's Eve. So, I mean, just to think that we've been doing it that long, it's already mind-blowing.
One of those long overnight successes.
Exactly. But
then even 15 months later, your album, I mean, more people bought your album this past week than most.
I know, it's like total Cinderella story, unbelievable. We're totally having fun with it, too.
Yeah.
And every time you put out another record, another song, you go, okay, this has certainly got to be the one that's going to finally kill the album, right? Now it's got to be over with. And they keep asking for more.
Just briefly, you're doing another benefit tonight, too. What's that one all about?
Tonight is the Children's Hospital of Orange County. And actually, we were thinking we were just going to do a warm-up show because we hadn't played for a while. And we were going to do a real low ticket price, just play, no big deal. And then we thought, well, why don't we do another benefit? And we wanted to do something for Orange County. So the Children's Hospital was I saw the program the night before about all these cancer kids that are just working so hard to get well. And I was like, oh, God, we have to do it for that. And
isn't it kind of strange now how when you were not so well known, not so successful, it's easy to do little small projects.
Right.
Now you can't really do a little small project. When No Doubt does something, it just somehow blows up into bigger things.
I found that out this weekend.
Yeah. Because you expected this weekend to be pretty.
But we're really fortunate because now we've been empowered to be able to, help and do events like this.
Right.
And, and perhaps in the past we weren't able to put something together that easily. And so it's the least we can do.
Now, when does the big money start rolling in? Doesn't it take a really long time, and you got to pay so much stuff back?
Yeah, they told us in a couple of years we could come in, have a little meeting, talk about when the big money's coming in.
They're lying to you, Tony.
Yeah.
But
we figure we're on tour, we're busy.
Have you gotten and I'm in no way asking for any kind of specifics, but have you gotten a check where you've said, this is so cool that I can go out and buy X, the thing that I wanted, or I can go to the place that I wanted? Has that happened yet?
My own place, for example, Gwen.
Right. I am definitely going to buy my own place. Adrian already did. Adrian bought a house in Long Beach. He's trying to be like the Sublime guys.
I don't mess around, man.
Hey, by the way, the reason you're not hearing much from Adrian, 100 chocolate chip cookies in a row. just forklift, right in, right out. Amazing.
I'm sorry I didn't save any for you guys.
No problem.
Yeah, we're talking. We're trying to work here. But have you been able to do that, Tom? Have you been able to do that, Tony?
Yeah, I used to eat a lot at Del Taco. Now I'm going to El Torito.
Oh,
so that gives
this is a
any
step up.
indication.
It's a giant step. Good work. Tony?
For me, I'm trying to keep everything the same. Still doing the yard, still going to Del Taco every day. Works burrito, no rice.
That's so cool. Well,
This Christmas was fun, though, I
I'll
think. I bought my dad a 12-string guitar. I actually had this friend that he had this prototype Yamaha guitar, acoustic guitar, and like about, 9 years ago, this guy came over and played it with a quarter and like scratched it all up, a friend of mine. So I went out and got him this guitar, and he was pretty much in shock when I gave it to him for Christmas. Yeah. I was
That's
like,
cool.
see, I made up for that mistake.
You're still making up for mistakes. You're 27.
Yeah, I know.
Their success in Britain not only allowed them to fill some of Britain's biggest venues with their electrifying performances, but it also gave them the opportunity to perform and appear with their heroes from their youth.
Of course, one of the advantages about having the success and being able to dabble in the rock world is to cross paths with people who've influenced you and such. And tell us about crossing paths with the original two-tone tenor Terry Hall.
Oh, God. We heard a rumor that he might come to the London show, and that really screwed me up. I had a horrible show and, worried the whole time that he was there, and he wasn't even there. And then we were touring in Europe, and our video director, Sophie Muller, knows him. And he came on the train 3 hours to come see us in Paris and ended up doing Gangsters and singing with us, and it was just... It's another thing. You just can't believe it. It's so overwhelming. You can't, there's nothing you can do. I mean, if you really, really ingested what was happening, you would probably die. So,
It's amazing to see. And for me, as a little bit of an outside viewer, because I was outside of the ska scene as a teenager, to watch Gwen and the rest of the band, who, I know worshipped these people and spent their teenage years listening to this music and loving it, and then getting a chance to meet, hang out with, and play music with their idols. It's pretty neat.
Yeah.
What's he up to? Does he does he want to make a new record?
He did make a new record, and funny enough, it's really, really good. And and it's funny because we did a video for Sunday Morning, and Sophie, the same video director that did Don't Speak and Excuse Mr., was doing it. So Terry was flying out to do a video for his new record, like the week later. So he came out and was in our video. He's in our video, and then in turn we're in his video, which we haven't seen yet. So it's weird. I mean, it's hard to believe it. My brother, who's used to be in the band and kind of was the dad of the band, and the father, when he met him, he was just like, he was so overwhelmed, he couldn't even handle it.
And what about Suggsy from Madness? Have you gotten a call from him yet?
We haven't got to meet Suggs yet, but
Just nothing but silence from Suggs, huh?
well,
weird.
yeah, I saw him on a program when I was in Europe, and he was doing like a house version of Our House for some charity benefit thing, and I almost didn't recognize him. It was like, wow, that Suggs, but it's I don't know what would happen if we met him. Probably, I don't know if I could. Probably it's not a good idea.
I wish I could just pull him right out of the bathroom right now. But
And now look who we have.
And are you guys going to be on this jam tribute that's coming out? Did you do a song for that? Or were you asked to do a song for that?
We were asked.
We've been talking about it and trying to find a way to work some studio dates into this tour.
What, you got a song that you'd want to do if you...
we were gonna get through the Canadian dates, and then we were gonna discuss it. As you have to like sit down and listen to the records, and then decide which one my voice would work for, and so I mean, all that stuff is really exciting. It's just finding the time to be able to do it. You know?
As Lisa Axe recalls, Gwen is quite a dominant force live.
If you're a fan of No Doubt, you are obviously a fan of Gwen Stefani, a very strong lead singer. Not just her voice, which is very distinctive and original, but her personality. When she is on stage performing, she is absolutely in control. She's a sort of androgynous sort, that girl power thing that I think the young kids really, really get into. Gwen's got a tremendous amount of charisma on stage. She's a very strong leading woman. She's got control of the band. While she's on stage, she has complete control of the audience, and I think that the young girls can really look up to her as a role model. Gwen has said that Tragic Kingdom was really her first foray into real songwriting for the band. She sort of deferred to the guys before, and I think it was an excellent effort. I think the charts speak for themselves. The sheer number of records that they've sold is amazing.
A theme echoed by British radio journalist Max Asanovich.
Yeah, I remember coming into the office the first time I saw that a No Doubt CD. It was the Tragic Kingdom CD, and on the front it had one of those typical record label stickers that entice you to open up the CD, and it said the second generation of ska. Now, obviously, I was around the first time when ska came about. I was a very young man, I'm delighted to say, and was hugely influenced, as were loads of people. I mean, the Specials are just magnificent. They still sound great today. Madness, Bad Manners, The Selector, the Body Snatchers, they were fantastic bands. And I think a lot of bands will fall into trouble when they try and reinvent the wheel, as it were. I was a little bit sceptical listening to the album first time round because the ska thing was so great. But I mean, No Doubt have clearly pulled it off with aplomb. I was so intrigued by this new phenomenon, I went and saw them at Wembley Arena, and it was a fantastic night. I must confess that I was surprised that the place was absolutely heaving. Although Don't Speak was number one in the British charts, it seemed to me that most of the people that would have been there would have only heard that track. But much to my surprise, as you can imagine, everybody seemed to know every single song. But I have to say that the one person that stole the show that night was Gwen Stefani. I mean, this is no disservice to the other three guys, who clearly are a fabulous band and play very, very tightly, but the woman's presence on stage is absolutely devastating. I mean, she seems to appeal to people on every level. All the women are there looking up to her in total adulation and total respect, while all the men, well, not all the men perhaps are gawping, but most of them certainly were. I mean, she's such a fabulous presence. And the thing about her, of course, is that she really, really can sing. I mean, that girl can belt these songs out. And the enthusiasm with which the band jumped all over the stage, I mean, they put on a fabulous show. It was one of those things that, you know, you go there, I was kind of sceptical, I wasn't in the greatest of moods, and I came out, I found myself in about 4 numbers, jumping up and down all over the place, and having a thoroughly enjoyable evening. The new album, well, it's penned in for 1998, but of course Interscope and Trauma are both slugging it out at the moment, not too surprisingly perhaps fighting over who owns the rights to No Doubt. But I'm certain, I mean, there has been a bit of sceptical conversation that the band might not make the great second album, but I'm sure they will. Actually, it won't be their second album, of course, it'll be their 4th album, but it'll be the follow-up to the hugely successful Tragic Kingdom, and I must say I'm very, very confident for these guys. I think they've got such a chirpy personality. They appeal to so many people on so many levels, and they seem to be very honest. You know, they've not become blasé about their success. They seem to take it on board very evenly and very maturely, and I'm certain, and certainly hope, that they'll be around with us for many, many years to come. They're a great band, and they deserve all the success that they've received.
Following a nationwide US tour playing with Bush, Gwen soon became romantically embroiled with Bush's frontman Gavin Rossdale. Initially, the pair strenuously denied that any liaison was occurring, and both regularly feigned complete indifference when questions were put to either one of them about the affair. If either one of them thought that the interest in their relationship would die down, they would be sorely mistaken. Even poor old Gavin couldn't escape the questions. It seemed that no matter where he went, it was all anyone wanted to talk about.
Yeah, my name's Cameron from Tacoma. I was just wondering where Gwen is, because that's all I'm here for.
Wow! Up in the ante. Good man, good man. Well, I respect that, but I'm afraid she's taken, so, you know.
With no quotes from the silent couple, the press began to make up their own stories in order to satisfy the public titillation. Gwen explains the misrepresentation she felt at the hands of the media and radio DJs.
They were asking, is it really fun now that this is all happening? I was saying, yeah, it's been amazing, but we've been to a lot of stations around the country. And, a lot of times I'll walk in, and because I am a female, I'll walk in, and first thing they ask me is, oh, so who are you sleeping with in the band? Like, that's a question they'll ask on the air. Or, it's customary here at this station that we have all the female artists show us their breasts, like rude statements like that. And that's happened to me several times, and we were talking about that, and that's when I made that quote that they quoted me on. So, I mean, it's really, I don't know. That's
what was
where
the quote? What was the quote?
All DJs are idiots.
All DJs
and
are...
morons, remember?
What's cool about No Doubt is that even though they've strayed away from their ska roots, they have opened the door for a lot of other bands, not only in Southern California, but around the country. And the ska genre is really catching on. Bands like Real Big Fish, Save Ferris, The Skeletones, Jeffrey's Fan Club, Less Than Jake, just to name a few. These bands that were floundering without anywhere to go as far as radio airplay now all of a sudden have a place to go, and No Doubt really helped pave the way for this third wave of ska. Since Tragic Kingdom has broken through the charts, they have been on the road. What is that, about 2 years now? No new releases from them. Have not even heard if they are in the studio yet, which is kind of interesting to see if they'll suffer from sort of the sophomore curse. Now, granted, Tragic Kingdom was not No Doubt's first release by any means, but their first really successful release. I know it's always kind of difficult for bands who finally get over that hurdle then to produce another album. It's like you work all your life to reach this pinnacle, and this album, which has such phenomenal success, and now you're expected to, of course, go above that. We'll see what happens. Should be interesting.
Your disposition doesn't seem to have changed at all. How are you dealing with it and keeping so calm with all the hysteria that's going on around you?
I think it's like so exciting that you can't believe it or something. You know what I mean? It just doesn't even hit you.
We were really excited last time to be here and to play for 1,000 people. It was huge thrill.
Has there been a moment during it all where things got a little tense, where you wanted to shut it down and go, okay, wait a second, we got to stop and just gather our thoughts here?
Oh, totally. I mean, anytime that you're on tour for that long with the same people, on a tour bus for 24 hours, 7 days a week, you start to go a little mad. But I think the thing that's it's always kept the band going for the 10 years we've been together is just playing the shows, because they're so rewarding, and there's nothing more rewarding than having the people, sing the songs off your record, and, especially all the way up here in Canada. It's going, last night we played Montreal. It was really incredible. My neck still hurts from looking up at all the people.
And what about musically, Tom? Just to keep it interesting for yourself and the musicians, what have you trying to do anything, or are you able to write new songs or learn some new covers on the bus or the hotel just to keep it interesting?
That's a really good question. We haven't been able to do too much of that, and it's actually there's a strange point where you hit on a tour where it feels like, oh boy, I feel like I'm playing by numbers now. I really have to make a special effort because I've done this show for 100 times in a row now. So we do little things. We have little breakdowns live where we take the time to noodle around and try to keep it a little bit fresh. But there's definitely a challenge in that. After so many shows, we have to keep pushing ourselves. It's awful to say it, but you get used to it. You get used to playing the same songs, and so we have to make that effort. But no, not too much. We're pretty bad musicians, and we don't do a lot of playing outside of the sound checks and on stage. I guess the show. I guess at sound check we do kind of stretch out a bit here and there.
Tragic Kingdom has proved itself to be a resilient seller, which spent almost 100 weeks on the Billboard charts. It looks certain that 1998 would have seen the release of the much-awaited follow-up, but with both Interscope and Trauma fighting out a $100 million lawsuit over who owns the right to the band, they may have to wait a little longer before their new album sees the light of day. No Doubt achieved their success by having a staggering amount of belief in themselves, and by having the perseverance to stick to their task despite what critics or record companies thought about their brand of ska pop. If you listen to the early releases by The Specials, by Madness, or the brilliant bad manners, you will find that it is simply not possible to sit still. The dexterous songs that effortlessly lift away from Tragic Kingdom instill the same feelings, because this Orange County foursome had the courage to pursue the brand of music they loved, while all the other alternative acts abandoned their identities while leaping onto the grunge bandwagon. It would have been easy for No Doubt to have done the same, but all along they have steadfastly remained true to themselves and their fans, and will be with us for many years to come.
I'm just really excited we get to make another record, you know. I mean, I think before this one came out, I know we were all kind of going, okay.
Let's try it again.
27, maybe we should get real lives. This is kind of getting ridiculous.
Yeah.
Still live at home, you know, that whole thing.
You're still living at home, aren't you, Gwen?
Yeah.
What's that like?
I am, yeah.
What is that like?
It's time, you
Because
know what I'm saying?
you're like, yeah, no kidding. I mean, you know, you're like...
Do your friends call for you? Do they have to ask your mom and stuff?
Well, it's funny because I call... yeah, it's really weird now that I've come home and it's just weird stuff happens to me now.
I'm sure.
You know, I can't really go to the mall and those kinds of things
Right.
anymore. And I have these people called trick-or-treaters, I call them. They come to my house and they just have like stacks of stuff they want me to sign. And,
Oh, really?
you know, people call my mom and dad all the time, and it's pretty ridiculous.
How are your mom and dad with it?
They're
guess they're
cool.
fun.
I mean, my mom is silly because she did an interview for some girl's paper school paper the other day, and she said, she really wants you guys to play Squeal tonight. Do you think you can do it? I'm like, Mom.
Now your mom's begging you.
Yeah.
How about the rest of you guys? What are your living arrangements
Well,
like?
I have no problem going to the mall. People just usually ask me for directions to, their calendars or something like that.
There are some advantages and disadvantages to not being the front person, and I bet Adrian, you look like half the guys at Orange County. I bet that really works for you sometimes. You can still go to the beach and just kind of enjoy it if you want.
Oh, it's awesome. And me and Tom actually live together, and we ask each other for autographs when we get home in the afternoon.
When you get lonely, we support each other, yeah.
Tom, can I have your autograph tonight when we get home?
Oh, thanks, dude. I feel really great.